Hello, welcome to 30-minute mindfulness. This online thing is crazy. This live thing is not working very well, but we got it. I'm live. How cool. Um, okay, so today I thought we would talk about how perspective changes our experience. What is perspective? So it's the story we tell ourselves about what's going on. It's the meaning that we attach to the situation. It's the lens we look through that colors what we see to be true. It's how we interpret what's unfolding in front of us. So perspective is not truth with a capital T. It's more like a hypothesis. It's an educated guess of what's happening. It's an interpretation. Our perception is filtered through our lenses that are made up of our lifetime of experiences. So it's hurts, betrayals, it's joy, it's sadness, it's grief, it's love, and everything in between. Our perception is made up of all of those things. My perception may be different than yours because I have a different set of filters. Perception is fluid. It's alive. It changes as we change. So the question becomes, what if our perspective is missing something? What if it's not true? What if it's only partially true? What if our perspective is distorted in some way? What does my perception stop me from seeing? So these questions lead us to consider what view might be limited because of the lenses we're looking through. So what happens if we consciously seek to see into the places where our perception blinds us? As Henry Thoreau said, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. When I allow myself to have a curious, interested perspective, when I allow my perception to embody that curiosity, that wanting to understand more, I allow the unfolding of new information to be fluid. I welcome new information. What I believe to be true can grow and change when I have that curious perspective. What I believe to be true becomes a more whole perspective because I'm not pushing away any pieces of it. I'm allowing things as they arise to enter my awareness. And that's guiding me into like a deeper understanding of possibilities. Now, on the other side of that, when I know the truth, when I know my perception is accurate, when I don't have that curious understanding, I limit myself from seeing the possibility of something new. If I decide that what I believe is true, it's a fact, then I will see nothing else. Wayne Dyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So the more rigid we are, the more we limit new information from entering our field of awareness. The more fearful we are, the more we deny the existence of new information. So again, it doesn't enter our field of awareness. It doesn't become part of our perception. Agnès Nin, a French author, said, we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. So I want to share this story. Stephen Covey, he's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. In that book, he writes this story. It's an experience he had. So he explains, one Sunday afternoon, he was on the subway in New York City, and the train was filled with lots of people, but everybody was really mellow. They were reading, sitting quietly, reading the paper, reading a book. Some were lost in thought, some were resting their eyes, maybe they were meditating, whatever it was. But it was a peaceful experience. So this is Stephen's account of that afternoon. So it was a calm and peaceful scene. Suddenly, a man and his children enter the car. The children were so loud and rambunctious that instantly the whole climate changed. The man sat down next to me and closed his eyes, apparently oblivious to the situation. The children were yelling back and forth, throwing things. They were even grabbing people's newspapers, like out of their hands. It was very disturbing. And yet the man sitting next to me did nothing. It was difficult not to feel irritated. I could not believe that he could be so insensitive and let his children run wild and do nothing about it, taking no responsibility. So I just want to parentheses here. Notice that this perspective that Stephen's taking is a totally all about me perspective. It's all based on how these people walked into his space. It's all about what's affecting him, the inconvenience to him. So now let me go on to say, the story continues. So it was easy to see that everyone on the subway felt irritated too. It wasn't just me. So finally, with what I felt was an unusual sense of patience and restraint, I turned to him and said, "Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you couldn't control them a little more." The man lifted his gaze as if to come out of consciousness of a situation for the very first time and said softly, "Oh, geez, you're right. I guess I should do something about it. You know, we just came from the hospital where their mother died about an hour ago, and I don't know what to think. I don't know how to handle it either. I don't know what I'm doing." So Covey quickly explains how his irritation evaporated and compassion took over as soon as he learned this man's story. But he had to move out of his own experience. He had to move past the irritation of the disruption that took over his peaceful environment. He had to see the father's perspective, and he had to see what those children had just lost. Their very, very painful reality changed Covey's perspective very quickly. We frame the way we interpret the world through how the situation affects us. Is it inconvenient? Is it a disruption? Is it a bother? It takes conscious effort to see the bigger picture, to get out of our own way, like Covey did in the end. He got out of his own way. The bigger picture, the wider perspective that Covey experienced, made room for compassion and love. It's easy to see how Covey felt irritated at the beginning without understanding the man's perspective, the man's story. It's also easy to see how small Covey might have felt after he understood the man's story. Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, love is understanding. If you cannot understand, you cannot love. The love is patient. Love is kind. Love seeks to uncover what is really there. It's a fluid perspective. Love is a fluid perspective. Viktor Frankl said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That changing ourselves is a reworking of our perception. It's a broadening of our perception. Not all storms come to disrupt our lives. Some come to clear the path. So how do we change our perspective? Well, one of the tools is we find beauty right now, in this moment. We go for a walk. We read a book. We pet our dog. We slow down and we stop the story running through our minds. Just stop it and find something beautiful. Find something beautiful right now. Do your best not to tell yourself you don't have time. Do your best not to tell yourself that you can't stop thinking for 2 minutes. Those are all just illusions. You have time. You have all the time in the world. You can do anything for 2 minutes. Albert Einstein said, there are 2 ways of looking at life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is a miracle. The story you tell yourself creates your reality. Make that story a reality that you feel inspired to live. So with that, I invite you to close your eyes and let's meditate as we normally do for about 15 to 20 minutes. So find a posture that's comfortable. Something that's upright but not rigid. Just something that evokes alertness. And let's just step into the silence. Feel the presence of your breath. Let that natural rhythm of your breath, that in and out, let that be your grounding to this present moment, to the awareness of right here, right now. As we consider how powerful perception is, let's just walk towards our own edge of perception. Let's just use that curiosity and see what we see. What's deeper to understand? So let's just gently walk forward. Is there a situation in your life that feels pressing or uncomfortable or taxing in some way? Maybe there's a person that seems particularly difficult for you right now. So just bring that person or experience to mind. Does whatever arises out of that experience or that interaction with that person, does it feel like an inconvenience or a disruption? What story are you telling yourself about this situation? What is it that you believe to be true? Does that story feel like fact? Does it feel like the way it is? Period. Is my story true? Is it 100% true? Is it possible to consider a wider frame on my perception? Is it possible to see this situation through the eyes of the man on the train? Is it possible to see the situation through another person's eyes? When I hold that perception of knowing, can I look into what does my perception stop me from seeing? Where are my blind spots when I hold tightly to my perception? when we practice self-awareness, we remind ourselves that it's a gentle awareness. When we dive into these things that can be difficult, we look with a curious mind. There's no judgment. There's no good or bad. It's simply a deeper understanding. Because the more clearly we see, the more well-being we create in our lives. I'll ring the bell in just a couple minutes. So these last few minutes, just wrap yourself in that blanket of kind intention, or maybe envision your body surrounded by a beautiful white light, whatever image works for you. But just hold yourself with that sense of self-compassion and care, that sense of understanding your humanity in this journey of seeing more clearly. And when you're ready, please open your eyes. Thanks for being here today. As always, I love your comments and feedback. Remember, change your thoughts, you change your life. Your thoughts are the beginning of your perception. See you tomorrow.